President Ford's granddaughter, Heather, what upset you the most about the scenes at the Capitol?
So as I was watching it unfold from my home, I was, seeing the crowds building and the protests and the things like that. And then as we started to see the imagery of the insurgents inside the Capitol, there was a picture of a man standing with my grandfather's statue in the statuary room in the Capitol, which a lot of people don't know, but every state gets only 2 statues in its entire history in the statuary hall. And so when my grandfather was awarded one of the 2 statues for Michigan, it was a great honor for our family. We were so excited. It was a big deal. And when we saw the image from the Capitol of a man standing with my grandfather's statue, standing upon the statue and putting him in a Make America Great Again hat and a Trump flag, it broke my heart because MAGA is everything that my grandfather was against. He believed, in equal rights. He believed in immigrant rights. He believed in women's rights. He believed in, rights for African Americans. In 1934, long before he was president, and he was a center for the University of Michigan, he protested playing the game when the University of Georgia would not allow his good friend and roommate, Willis Ward, to play. He believed that everybody needed to have a voice, and he believed that nobody was better than anybody else, no matter what. And so to see that sort of this person had decided for my grandfather, who, in statue form was for MAGA, just opened my eyes to how this has happened in our country, that people are taking, are rewriting history almost, and sort of assuming things that are incredibly untrue.
We're going to walk down Pennsylvania Avenue. I love Pennsylvania Avenue. And we're going to the Capitol, and we're going to try and give, the Democrats are hopeless. They're never voting for anything, not even one vote. But we're going to try and give our Republicans, the weak ones, because the strong ones don't need any of our help, we're going to try and give them the kind of pride and boldness that they need to take back our country. So let's walk down Pennsylvania Avenue. I want to thank you all. God bless you, and God bless America. Thank you all for being here. This is incredible. Thank you very much.
Heather, what would your grandpa have made to President Trump's conduct, both after the election, in the run-up to the riot, and also since the riot?
I thought about this a lot because my grandfather's presidency obviously wasn't easy. He, became president in 1974 after Watergate, and he pardoned Nixon. And, the country was in incredible turmoil. And the country was, he got incredible backlash for pardoning Nixon. But he did that because he knew that it was what was right for the country. And he knew that our country needed to heal. It wasn't because he was indebted to Nixon or anything. And he was brought before a congressional committee to testify that he was not indebted to Nixon. But he did it because it was what was right. And I think that there's a giant lack of that right now with the way that Trump is handling the election. He's not doing what's right for our country or what's right for the future of our country, but what is right for him. And it's the exact opposite. I think my grandfather would be sad because just the way that our country has sort of nosedived into this strange reality that it is, and that is so different from what it was when he was president.
Heather, what do you think your grandpa's advice to President Trump would be?
It's really hard to say because, I remember I spoke when 9/11 happened. I spoke to my grandfather, and I was, it was kind of in the mess of what's going on, what are we hearing, and he had been on a conference call with a bunch of other former presidents getting intelligence and things like that. And, his honesty was, we just don't know. He always led with honesty. He always led with, even if it was not what somebody wanted to hear, that's what he led with. And I think that he would tell Trump to do his best to kind of come clean, to admit that he was wrong, admit that, Joe Biden won the election and he will become our president. I think that he would encourage Trump to kind of do damage control and really step up into the role of a president and what they should do for our country.
This is the time to heal in America.
What would your grandpa's advice to Joe Biden be?
I think he would, Biden's been around in politics a long time. My mom knew him when he was a young congressman, and, he kind of has the, everybody thinks Joe Biden's a great guy. And I honestly believe that, even though that doesn't define him as a president, I think that that goes a long way with people when you are trying to get policies passed. I think that goes a long way with people when you're, on either sides of an argument, when people are trying to get things done.
Heather, what would your grandpa make of today's Republican Party following 4 years of Trump at the helm?
Even when my grandfather was alive and in the late 90s, he was considered, and even when he was president, he was considered a very liberal Republican. So he believed in a lot of things that today's very conservative Republican Party do not believe. But I think the things that my grandfather believed in brought humanism to the Republican Party. It wasn't just dollar signs and growth and the economy. It was really about people. And I think that today's Republican Party would really benefit from going back to those values of, fighting for the people of this country and people who are coming to this country for exile from places that they have been before.
Your grandpa famously pardoned Richard Nixon following his resignation and subsequent impeachment. What do you think he would do with President Trump?
It's a good question. I think, the reason that my grandfather pardoned Nixon was because he didn't feel that the country at that time could handle seeing their president go through a lengthy trial, a lengthy impeachment process. And so I don't know what he would think today. I don't know if he would feel like what President Trump did was so beyond the pale of what is acceptable for a president that he should be tried. I don't know if he would feel like that he needs to be given grace. It's even myself, I struggle with that question, really knowing what's best for our country and what's the best way forward.
Obviously, your grandpa took over the country at a very fractured time too. How do you think that he would rebuild the country following such a turbulent 4 years?
One of the things that, and I spoke to it a little bit, he was very open to compromise. My grandfather, that's how he became, he kind of climbed the ranks of the House, because he was, people didn't mind being on the other side of the aisle to him. He was very kind, he was very personable, and I think that was one of the things that he focused on, rebuilding the country after Watergate.
Heather, what would your grandpa make to President Trump's decision not to attend Joe Biden's inauguration?
I think that Grandpa would really encourage Trump to attend the inauguration. If nothing else, for the public to see this true transition of power from Trump to Biden. There's lots of things that go around behind the scenes of that transition of power, but this is our very public way of showing this event, and it's a historic event, and it's something that, you know, there's a great camaraderie between former presidents and the family of former presidents, because it's a very unique experience. And I think that Trump is showing that he kind of wants nothing to do with the historical aspect of his position. He wants nothing to do with the way that things have been done before him. And it's kind of a snub to the history of inaugurations and the presidents who have gone before him. And I think it's really unfortunate.